The wind carried sand across the valley like a whisper from forgotten times. Brushing against the silent canyon walls where a lone rider made his way through the dusk, his horse moved steady, hooves striking dry earth while the sky burned in fading copper. The man had traveled far from his people, far from the campfires of his home, seeking trade and peace among settlers who still kept their distance from him. He carried little with him, just a small pouch of herbs, hunting knives, and a quiet strength that showed in his shoulders. His presence made townsfolk stare, but he was used to that. He never raised his voice, never looked for trouble. Trouble simply found him. He had not planned to stop for the night until he heard someone crying behind the old mission walls near the edge of the deserted road. The sound was faint at first, carried by the wind, like the voice of someone trying hard not to be heard. He pulled on the reins and listened again. The horse snorted, ears pointing toward the stone archway where shadows moved like ghosts. He stepped off the saddle and walked closer, his bare chest rising and falling as he breathed slow, prepared for anything. Inside the ruin stood a young woman, her hands pressed to her face, shoulders shaking. Her clothes were dusty, torn at the edges, and it looked like she had run through half the desert just to get there. Her hair was wild from the wind, and she wore the kind of travel dress that had once belonged to a woman of a homestead, not someone used to life on the road. She tried to compose herself the moment she noticed him, wiping her eyes like nothing was wrong, though she trembled like a leaf caught between two storms. He did not speak at first. He simply watched her, trying to understand whether she needed help or wished to be left alone. Most settlers avoided his kind or spoke to him like he carried danger by just breathing, but she looked at him with tired eyes instead of fear, as if she had been waiting for someone to listen. "You should not be out here alone," he said quietly, his voice deep and steady. She shook her head, still catching her breath. "I had no choice." He could tell she had not eaten in some time. Her lips were dry, and there was desperation in her posture, the way she stepped back but did not run. As the wind pushed her hair aside, he noticed faint marks on her arms like rope had once been tied too tight. Someone had held her in place, but he did not ask yet. The story would come when she wished. "You are far from town," he added, "and farther from safety." "I know," she whispered, glancing back toward the road as if expecting riders to appear. He had seen fear before. This was not the kind that came from wolves or cold nights. This was fear of people. He offered her water, holding out a leather pouch. She hesitated, then drank carefully, as though kindness was something new. When she handed it back, she looked at him with eyes full of questions and sorrow. "They will come for me," she murmured. "Who?" "My father," she answered with a shaky voice. "He keeps me locked away. He says it is for my protection, but I feel like a bird kept without wings." Apache warriors stood still, not judging, not rushing. Many settlers hid their daughters from the world, fearing raids, travelers, or simply rumors. But there was something heavier in her tone, something she struggled to say aloud. "I escaped," she continued. "I waited until he was gone for supplies. I slipped through the back window and ran. And now you are alone." She nodded, and a tear slid down her cheek before she brushed it away. The sky turned darker, stars lifting across the horizon as coyotes howled in distant hills. The warrior looked at her with a quiet patience, sensing there was more she had not shared. He finally spoke again. "Why did you wait until now? What changed?" She closed her eyes. "Because he comes into my room every night. He checks the doors, the windows, the chest under the bed, even the closet. He says someone is after me, but he never explains who. I thought he was only being overprotective, but last night I overheard him speaking to someone outside. He called me the key. He said if anyone touches me or takes me away, they would lose what they came for. That is when I realized I am not being protected. I am being guarded." The warrior felt the weight of her words settle deep within him. Her fear was not of a fatherly warning, but of being used for something she did not understand. The desert night washed over them, and her voice fell softer, filled with panic she had carried in silence. "I tried to convince myself he only cared for me," she said. "But he comes every night, checking everything, making sure I cannot leave. I feel like a prisoner, not a daughter." The warrior let the truth settle before speaking. Do you know what he's guarding you from? She shook her head. Only that he fears you. Your people. He says the Apache wants something from me, but I do not know what. He does not let me read letters. He does not let me hear news from town. He says everything outside is a danger. The warrior raised his brow, confused. I do not know you. My people do not hunt strangers. No, she whispered. That is why I ran to you when I saw you. I knew if anyone would tell me the truth, it would be someone who had no reason to lie. He looked at her hands again, noticing faint calluses that suggested she had once worked fields or carried buckets of water. She was not fragile by nature. She had been forced into fragility. He wondered what kind of father guarded his daughter like a treasure, and what secret she carried. Without knowing, the wind stilled. The night grew quiet, too quiet, as though the earth itself waited for an answer neither of them had yet. He took a step closer, lowering his voice so the desert might not steal the words. What did your father say you are the key to? She swallowed hard, fear rising again in her throat. He said, I am the only one who can claim something buried beneath the old canyon. That only my blood can open it. I do not know what he meant. I only know he will not let me live my own life. The warrior felt his heartbeat change. That canyon was sacred land, a place of legend. No settler should claim it. If her father sought it, trouble had already begun. Before he could speak again, horses thundered in the distance, lanterns flashing like lightning across the night. She grabbed his arm, breath sharp. They found me. He stood firm, ready to face whoever approached. But she pulled him toward the shadows, eyes wide with desperation. Oh, do not understand, she whispered with trembling voice. If he takes me back, I will never see the world again. He looked into her frightened eyes, and in that moment, he had to choose whether to walk away or stand between her and whatever darkness she fled. The riders drew closer, their voices rising, calling her name. Her hand tightened around his. Please, she begged, do not let them take me back. The warrior stood silent for a long moment, then stepped forward, placing himself between her and the road, not knowing that the truth waiting beneath the canyon would change both their lives forever. The riders slowed, torches burning bright as the warrior prepared to face them, unaware that the truth she carried was far more dangerous than any enemy he had ever known. The horses slowed to a halt at the entrance of the mission ruin, dust spinning around their hooves as the riders searched the darkness with lanterns raised high. The Apache warrior kept his body in front of the young woman, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his back. She shook with fear, her breath shallow, her hands twisting in her skirt as though she could hide her terror by gripping the cloth tighter. Her father's voice carried sharply through the night. Check every corner. She can't be far. The warrior studied the riders. 6 men, rifles across their saddles, each dressed in the clothes of ranch hands. Their expressions were not of worried searchers, but determined hunters. These men were not here to bring home a frightened daughter with gentle words. They were here to retrieve something valuable, something they believed belonged to them. Stay behind me, he whispered. She nodded. Hardly able to speak, one of the riders dismounted and stepped toward the mission wall, his boots scraping against loose stones. His lantern beam passed dangerously close to where they hid. The warrior placed a steadying hand on the young woman's arm, feeling how tense she had become. He knew he would need to move soon, not to fight, but to escape. A fight here would bring more soldiers, more settlers, more blood. The warrior leaned down and spoke softly. There is a path behind this place leading down to the riverbed. When I move, follow. Do not look back. She bit her lip, tears threatening to fall again, but she did as he said. He waited for the perfect moment. A gust of wind blew across the ruins, pushing the lantern light away for a second. In that breath of darkness, he took her hand, and they slipped behind broken stone and fallen columns. Moving quietly along the back wall, her steps were uneven at first, fear making her stumble. But he guided her firmly. The men continued searching the entrance, unaware the 2 figures were already leaving through the shadows. They reached the rear opening, and the warrior led her toward a narrow path that dropped into a dry riverbed. She almost slipped, but he caught her, lifting her down with ease. The ground below was soft with sand, their tracks mostly hidden by the wind. They moved quickly, the mission walls shrinking behind them as the warriors' deep tracks vanished into darkness. Coyotes howled in the distance, and she clung to his arm out of pure instinct, feeling safer closer to him than she ever had behind locked doors. After some distance, when the riders' voices could barely be heard, the warriors slowed their pace. Moonlight touched the canyon like silver paint, revealing scattered mesquite bushes and limestone ledges ahead. He checked behind them once more, making sure no one followed. "You are safe for now," he said with calm assurance. She sank to her knees, a wave of relief and exhaustion weakening her limbs. He knelt beside her, offering his water again. She drank, her hands steadier than before. "What is your name?" he asked gently once she caught her breath. She hesitated. Her name had always felt like a chain, something her father controlled. "You can call me Lily," she whispered. It wasn't her full name, but it was hers to give. The warrior nodded. "I am called Darkhawk." She looked up at him, studying his features. Long black braided hair, strong jaw, and warm eyes, softened by quiet concern. There was a nobleness in the way he held himself, not seeking power or dominance, just truth. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "You do not even know me," he answered simply. "I saw someone who needed help." She lowered her gaze, uncertain how to accept such kindness. All her life she had been told to fear his people, to stay away from the Apache. Her father would always say they were thieves of land and hearts. Yet in this moment, it was an Apache warrior who protected her. While the men she knew hunted her like property, Darkhawk stood and helped her rise. "We cannot stay here. When morning comes, they will search again. Your father will not stop." Her heart tightened at the thought. She wished she could pretend her father was just scared of the world, just trying to protect her. But deep inside, she sensed a darker motive, one tied to secrets she had never been allowed to see. They walked until they reached a large rock formation shaped like a sleeping giant. Beneath it, a shallow cave offered shelter from the wind. Darkhawk gathered dry branches and started a small fire, careful to keep the flames low. The glow cast soft light across Lily's face, revealing how tired she truly was. He prepared a small meal from a bundle of dried meat and roots. She ate slowly, grateful for every bite. When she finished, she hugged her knees, staring into the fire like it might show her the answers her father kept hidden. Darkhawk sat across from her. "Tell me why he believes only you can open what is buried in the canyon." Lily ran her fingers across the dust at her feet. "He never said clearly. He only told me my blood is the only key. He has maps, old maps of Apache land. He would study them for hours, writing notes and numbers. He would lock his office and whisper to strangers who visited late at night." Darkhawk frowned. "My people say there are places that hold spirits, places where the earth keeps memories of our ancestors. These lands are not to be disturbed." "My father does not believe in warnings," she replied sadly. "He believes in money. He believes in power." Darkhawk understood now. Many settlers searched for gold or old weapons buried by lost tribes. They ignored sacred boundaries and cursed the land when it fought back. "How long have you been kept inside your home?" he asked. "As long as I can remember," Lily answered. "He started watching me closely when I was young. Then one day he stopped letting me go into town altogether. I used to dream of walking to the river, of meeting friends, of life beyond our fences. But he always came into my room each night to make sure I had not left or spoken to anyone." Darkhawk listened with silent empathy. He imagined a young girl standing at a window, staring at stars she wasn't allowed to reach. The thought angered him more than he expected. "Why did he fear the Apache?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "He once said our families had history. Something happened years ago between his father and your people. I never understood what. He never wanted me to ask." Darkhawk gazed into the fire, his expression troubled as memory stirred inside him. He knew tales of settlers who betrayed deals, who stole land or sacred objects. He wondered if her family had been involved. Before he spoke again, Lily leaned closer. "Why do your people protect the canyon so fiercely? What lies there?" Darkhawk's eyes darkened slightly, not in anger, but respect. There are stories that say a treasure lies deep beneath it, but not the kind men dig for. It is said the first generations of my people placed something there to protect us from cruelty and greed. Something powerful. Only those with rightful blood can open the way. Lily's heart pounded. She remembered her father's whispers. The key. The canyon. The danger, if anyone reached it first. My father thinks I am the rightful blood, she said quietly. Darkhawk stared at her with new realization. If her father was right, then Lily's bloodline connected in some broken way to his own ancestors. Maybe through peace. Maybe through betrayal. Outside the cave, the wind howled stronger, as if the earth itself warned them that the past was returning. Lily rubbed her arms, shivering despite the fire's warmth. Fear and confusion sat heavy on her shoulders. What will happen if he finds me? She asked, voice thin. Darkhawk answered honestly. He will use you to take what does not belong to him. She swallowed hard. That was her greatest fear. Darkhawk looked toward the horizon. Soon the sun would rise, and the search would begin again. He had a choice now. He had taken her away from her hunters, but that was not the end. They could run north. They could find a quiet farm far from this land. But deep in his heart, he knew running would not end the danger. Her father would chase her until his greed was satisfied. Lily studied the warrior's face, trying to read the storm building behind his eyes. What are you thinking? She asked. He turned to her. I must take you to my people. They will know what this means. They will know why your father guards you so. Her chest tightened. Going to the Apache meant stepping into a world her father had always told her to fear. But she feared her father's world far more now. She nodded slowly. I will trust you. Darkhawk did not smile, but something gentle passed through his eyes. A silent promise that he would not let harm come to her. He stood and checked the path ahead, ready to move again before the riders returned. Lily gathered herself, breathing deep, feeling strength she had not known she possessed, as she stepped toward him. The ground beneath them rumbled slightly, like a distant heartbeat rising from the canyon itself. Lily froze, her eyes widening. Darkhawk looked back at her, face tense. The earth had spoken. Something buried deep was waking. The faint rumble beneath the earth faded as quickly as it came, leaving the night silent again. Lily stood frozen, her hand pressed to her chest, feeling her heartbeat race as though trying to match the tremor. Darkhawk watched the ground carefully, his eyes narrowing, sensing that whatever stirred below was not caused by horses or distant thunder. It felt older, like an echo from something long buried. He turned back to Lily. The land is warning us. We do not have much time. She swallowed hard, fear tightening her throat. She had never believed land could speak or warn people of danger. Her father always said stories of spirits were foolish tales meant to keep people from exploring valuable places. But this felt different. The ground had pulsed like something alive. Darkhawk began packing their small camp, kicking dirt over the coals until the fire vanished. He moved fast but quietly, glancing toward the ridge with every sound. Lily helped as best she could, though her hands trembled. When they were ready, he pointed toward a narrow passage between two cliffs. We go through there. It will lead us to a safe ridge before sunrise. She followed him into the passage, but her mind kept replaying the tremor. She wondered if her father knew more about the canyon than he ever admitted. Perhaps he feared not just the Apache, but something beneath the earth that could change everything if discovered. As they walked, an uneasy question formed in her mind. If I am connected to your people's blood, how will they see me? Darkhawk paused before answering. Some will welcome you. Others may not trust you, but they will listen. She nodded. He could not offer her certainty, but he offered her honesty. The path widened until they reached a ledge overlooking a valley lit by starlight. Below, Lily could see campfires scattered in the distance. A small settlement of wood and canvas tents lay hidden among the trees. The air carried the faint scent of smoke and roasting corn. The sounds of soft drum beats rose from the center. Lily stopped, staring down at the lights. This world had always been just beyond the horizon of her father's land, yet she had never been allowed to see it. She imagined children running between tents, elders telling stories, women grinding corn by the fire. A life lived freely instead of behind locked doors. Darkhawk placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We will go at dawn. Approaching at night could bring confusion. They found shelter among large boulders, enough to hide them from sight. The warrior offered Lily a blanket, and they sat close enough to share warmth from the cool air. Lily finally asked the question that had gnawed her since she escaped. Darkhawk, do you think my father ever loved me? Or was I only something he planned to use? He did not answer quickly. He stared at the stars first, letting their light reflect in his eyes before he spoke. A father's heart can change when pride or greed blinds him. Sometimes love becomes possession. Sometimes fear becomes control. She lowered her gaze, the truth stinging more than she expected. She wanted to believe he cared once, before secrets took root. But somewhere along the way, she became a tool in a plan he never explained. Darkhawk continued softly. Maybe he believed he was protecting you. But protection without freedom is not love. It is a cage. His words settled deep in her chest. She pulled the blanket tighter, not from cold, from the ache inside her. As silence stretched between them, they heard hoofbeats far below, faint but unmistakable. Lily stiffened, and Darkhawk leaned forward, watching the riders moving across the valley floor. Lanterns burned along the saddles, but this time there were more than before. At least a dozen men rode in formation, and these men were not ranch hands. Their uniforms bore badges and iron buttons. Soldiers. Lily felt the air leave her lungs. He brought the army. Darkhawk nodded grimly. He wants the land and whatever lies inside it. If he cannot use you, he will take it by force. Lily's heartbeat thundered. She never imagined her father would call soldiers against her. She thought he feared war, not invited it. They are heading toward the canyon, Darkhawk whispered. Not the ruins. That meant her father believed he no longer needed to find her to begin his search. Maybe he thought she would return on her own. Maybe he had another plan to force her hand. Darkhawk rose to his feet. We must warn my people. They will not fight unless they must, but they need to know what comes. Lily stood too, her legs shaking. She had expected to hide, not to walk into the heart of the very people her father claimed she should fear. They made their way carefully toward the settlement as the sun began to rise, turning the sky pale orange. The camp stirred with morning voices and crackling fires. Dogs barked, children ran between tents, and elders warmed themselves beneath blankets. A few warriors noticed Darkhawk first. They walked toward him, their expressions serious. One of them spoke firmly. You return early. What trouble follows you? Darkhawk glanced at Lily, then back at the others. She seeks refuge. Men hunt her. Soldiers ride to the canyon. The camp fell silent around them. The elder who stepped forward had hair braided with white strands and eyes that held years of memory. He looked at Lily for a long moment, not unkindly, but deeply, as if searching for something beneath her face. What is she to the canyon? Lily stepped forward, voice trembling. I do not know. My father says, my blood is the key. He believes I can open something buried there, whispers spread, mixing concern with disbelief. Darkhawk placed a hand over his chest. I believe she speaks truth. Her father seeks to claim what belongs to our ancestors. The elder nodded slowly. We have heard signs from the earth. The wind carried warnings in the past moon. The time we feared may come. Lily felt dozens of eyes on her. She wished she had answers to give them. Instead, she felt as lost as before, only now surrounded by strangers who expected her role to matter. A woman, just older than Lily, stepped closer. Her eyes were strong, carrying both warmth and suspicion. If your father held you captive, why run now? Why not stay in the protection of your house? Lily felt herself shrink for a moment. Then she lifted her chin. Because I am tired of living behind locked doors? Because I want my life to be my own? Because whatever lives in that canyon, I will not let it be used to harm anyone. Another warrior, younger and restless, pointed toward the north where soldiers marched. What if she leads them here? What if she was sent? Darkhawk stepped forward before Lily could speak. She ran from them, not to them. I saw fear in her eyes. The elder raised his hand to quiet the dispute. He turned to Lily again. You will stay with us until the truth is known. But understand, our trust must be earned. The canyon is sacred. We cannot walk blindly into its depths. Lily nodded. She did not expect trust not from people her father painted as enemies. She only hoped she could prove she was not a threat. The elder motioned to the young woman beside him. She will watch over you. The woman nodded and stepped beside Lily, offering a small pouch of herbs. Drink this tea to calm your body. You look worn from travel, Lily accepted with gratitude. She sat near a fire while Darkhawk spoke privately with the elders about the soldiers. Their voices grew tense as they discussed the possibility of confrontation. Lily listened with guilt pressing heavily on her chest. She had brought danger to these people simply by existing. When they teased her trembling, she watched Darkhawk from across the camp, noticing the way he carried the weight of responsibility in every step. He had no reason to help her, no reason to risk his people. But he had chosen to anyway. A shadow fell across her, and she looked up to see the young woman who guarded her. Darkhawk has taken responsibility for you. He is respected. But if the canyon opens because of you, we must be prepared.
Oh.
Lily lowered her eyes. I do not want to bring harm. I only want to understand why my blood matters. The woman's expression softened slightly. Sometimes the earth chooses people before they choose themselves. Before Lily could respond, a horn sounded from the ridge. Warriors rushed to the edge of camp, looking toward the open plains. A messenger arrived, breathless. Soldiers have reached the first boundary stones. They carry tools and dynamite. Darkhawk clenched his fists. They will break the land if they cannot open it. Lily stood, heart racing. If they reach the canyon, her father might force her hand by destroying everything in his path. Darkhawk looked at her with fierce determination. We must go to the canyon before they do. The truth must be revealed on our terms. Lily nodded. Fear and purpose mixing inside her like wildfire as the warriors prepared to ride. The ground trembled again beneath their feet, stronger this time, as if the canyon itself woke to the threat. Lily steadied herself. Eyes wide, Darkhawk mounted his horse and reached his hand toward her. The earth remembers. We ride now. She took his hand, climbed up behind him, and together they rode toward the rising sun, not knowing whether the canyon would reveal truth, destruction, or something far greater waiting beneath. Stoneheart understood. I'll continue the story from exactly where it left off, raising the tension toward the climax, keeping everything human-centric. Natural, simple language, no headings, no triple dots, no policy-breaking content. Dust lifted behind the horses as they rode across the valley, the morning sun burning low through a haze of rising heat. Lily held tightly to Darkhawk as the wind whipped her hair, the world rushing past in a blur of red soil, tall grass, and scattered stones. Behind them, several warriors rode in formation, silent and focused. This was not a hunt or a raid. It was a race against time, a race against the soldiers marching toward the canyon with tools and dynamite. Lily tried not to look back, but the thought of her father's men pressing forward made her chest tighten. She wondered if he rode with them or waited at a higher camp, planning from a distance. She still could not understand how he could lock her away for so many years, yet now seek her only to reach a place she never knew existed. Every time she tried to picture his face, she remembered his stern gaze, the key on his belt, the sound of footsteps outside her bedroom door each night. Darkhawk sensed her fear even without looking at her. His voice cut through the wind. You must prepare yourself for what is ahead. The canyon is not only guarded by men, it is guarded by memories. Lily tightened her grip. What does that mean? He paused before answering. Some stories say the canyon holds the spirit of a leader who united different tribes long ago. Others say settlers tried to take what was buried there and vanished. My people believe only a rightful heir can open the path safely. Lily looked down at her hands, wondering how she could be tied to something so ancient. If her blood truly mattered, then her father must have known the truth long before she was old enough to question it. They slowed when the land shifted beneath them, dropping into slopes of layered stone. The canyon walls rose in the distance like enormous gates, streaked with copper and gold. A thin river cut through the middle, reflecting sunlight like a blade. The land felt alive, humming beneath their hooves. Warriors halted at the high ridge. Darkhawk guided his horse to the cliff's edge so they could see the canyon floor below. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Soldiers were already there, hauling crates of supplies, setting up tents, positioning rifles, hammering spikes into the rock. They moved with the strict order of men who believed they had every right to be there. At the front of the formation stood her father's second-in-command. Lily recognized him from her childhood, a man with cold eyes who always spoke to her father in whispers. His posture alone warned that he carried high authority now. They moved quickly, Darkhawk said. Too quickly, another warrior spoke behind him. If they reached the inner path, they could destroy everything. We cannot face rifles with arrows. Darkhawk stayed silent. He knew a direct fight would bring bloodshed and more soldiers from town. They needed a different approach. Lily watched men unroll maps across a wooden table. One map caught her eye. She leaned forward, trying to see it clearly. It showed the canyon's lines, but also strange symbols etched onto the stone. She recognized the handwriting. My father drew that. Darkhawk turned to her. Tell me what those marks mean. Lily swallowed. He once said they were coordinates, but he crossed out each set every time he failed. The last marks were drawn days ago. Another tremor shook the ground slightly beneath their feet, making small stones slide off the ridge. Warriors steadied their horses, whispering prayers under their breath. The canyon seemed to respond to each step the soldiers took, as if warning them to leave. Darkhawk dismounted. Lily followed him, her legs unsteady on the rocky surface. The elder woman who had guarded her earlier rode up beside them. You must be careful, she told Lily. When the canyon calls, you must answer with clarity. If you hesitate, the land may close itself to you. Lily nodded, though she felt far from ready. Darkhawk motioned to the warriors. We will move along the upper ledge unseen. When night falls, we reach the inner stone. She will stand where the map leads, and we will see if the canyon responds. Lily stared at him, her heart pounding. What if it opens? What if it reveals something my father wants? Darkhawk met her eyes. Then we must reach it before he does. They guided the horses along narrow cliffs, staying hidden behind tall rock formations. Below, soldiers moved like ants, measuring distances, setting charges near the canyon walls. Lily's stomach twisted when she recognized a familiar figure walking toward the central tent. It was her father. He stood tall, coat buttoned high, boots polished despite the dust. His voice carried even from afar, sharp and commanding. Men saluted him. He pointed toward the canyon's inner passage. Giving orders with the confidence of someone who believed the land already belonged to him, Lily's breath shook. She had hoped to see some trace of concern on his face, at least some sign he searched for her because he cared. But he looked as distant as the mountains, his gaze fixed only on the land ahead. Darkhawk watched him carefully. He does not look like a man searching for a lost child. Lily's voice wavered. Maybe I never was a child to him. Maybe I was a piece of a plan. Darkhawk rested a hand on her shoulder. You are more than what he made you to be. For a moment she leaned into that comfort, but duty pulled her eyes back to the canyon. Hours passed as they moved around the edges, waiting for daylight to fade. The sun sank lower, shadows stretching long across the stone cliffs. Coyotes cried in the distance. Soldiers built more lantern posts near the canyon mouth, preparing for night operations. When darkness finally settled, Darkhawk signaled for them to dismount and move on foot. The canyon narrowed as they moved deeper, its walls rising high enough to block out moonlight. Water dripped from unseen cracks. The air grew colder. Lily touched the wall gently, feeling grooves carved into the stone. Shapes she could not understand, symbols worn by time. Darkhawk studied them too. These marks tell a story. They warn of betrayal. They speak of a time when outsiders tried to take what they did not earn. The canyon closed itself then. Lily shivered. Will it open for me? That is what we shall learn. They reached a wide chamber where the canyon branched into two paths. The central rock formed a large pillar with markings spread across its surface. This was the point her father marked on the map. The ground beneath them vibrated faintly when Lily stepped closer. Dark. Hawk motioned for the warriors to stay back while he and Lily approached the stone. The wind outside shifted, sending a low howl through the passage. Like a voice calling from another time, Lily raised her hand, slowly, and placed her palm on the cold surface. The ground pulsed beneath her feet. The light inside the stone flickered like embers waking in a long-extinguished fire. The markings began to glow faint red, flowing the lines beneath her fingertips, like flowing blood returning to a sleeping heart. Darkhawk stepped back, eyes wide. The canyon knows you. Voices echoed in the distance. Not spirits, soldiers. They had followed the sound of the tremor. Darkhawk turned sharply, gripping his knife. They're coming. Lily backed away from the stone as shadows moved toward them, torches flaring. Her father's men entered the chamber with rifles raised, blocking their only escape. Her father stepped forward, breath heavy from the climb, eyes blazing not with relief, but triumph. There you are, he said, voice sharp. You should never have left. You have work to finish. Lily shook her head, voice breaking. You were never protecting me. You were protecting your claim. He lifted his chin. This is our legacy. All right? You will open the canyon fully. Darkhawk moved between them, standing tall. She is not yours to command. Soldiers cocked their rifles. Her father smirked coldly. Then she can watch you die. Either she opens the canyon, or you bleed on its stones. The chamber filled with tension, thick enough to choke. The earth trembled again, harder this time, dust raining from the ceiling. The canyon reacted not to power, but to conflict. Darkhawk whispered without turning. Do not give in. Lily stepped forward, heart racing, torn between blood ties and a purpose she barely understood. The stone pulsed behind her, glowing brighter as if waiting for her. Decision. Soldiers raised their rifles. Warriors readied their arrows. The ground rumbled like thunder beneath their feet, and the stone began to crack open. The cracking stone drew every eye in the chamber as light pushed through thin splits in the rock, glowing like a sunrise trapped beneath the earth. Dust drifted from the ceiling while the canyon walls trembled with rising energy. Soldiers lowered their rifles in stunned confusion, unsure if the land itself was turning against them. The warriors behind Darkhawk stood steady, bows drawn but waiting for his signal. Lily stepped closer to the stone, her breath catching as warmth spread from the cracks to the ground beneath her feet. Every pulse matched the rhythm of her heartbeat, like the canyon recognized her presence and answered. She placed her hand against the stone one more time, this time not from fear, but choice. Her father reached out. Stop. You don't know what it will unleash. She turned, tears burning in her eyes. You never wanted to protect me. You only wanted what lies here. I am tired of being controlled. He opened his mouth to speak, but whatever words he meant to say never came. For the first time, Lily saw more than ambition in his face. She saw exhaustion, regret, years of secrets weighing on his shoulders. He stepped back, lowering his hands slowly. Though he still did not let go of what he wanted, the stone split fully with a deep rumble, revealing a hollow chamber within. Instead of gold or treasure, the opening revealed an ancient carved frame holding a bundle wrapped in hide. The bundle pulsed with faint red light, surrounded by markings that seemed to guard it rather than display it. Darkhawk moved beside Lily, speaking gently. This is not wealth. This is a memory. Something left by those who came before? Lily reached out but stopped just short of touching the bundle. She felt a connection she could not describe. It felt like unfinished history calling to her. Darkhawk helped her lift it from the stone slowly, careful not to break the bindings. The light dimmed when she held it, like a long-held breath finally released. Her father stared at the bundle, confusion twisting his expression. "What is it? Where is the gold?" Darkhawk answered before Lily could. "This holds the story of your ancestors, a sign of peace between our people. It was never meant to be stolen or traded. It was meant to guide those born of both worlds." Lily looked down at the wrapped artifact, realizing why her father had feared the Apache and why the Apache protected the canyon. The truth belonged to both sides. Her father's family must have once shared blood with the tribe, then broke the bond out of greed. She felt the weight of that history press against her heart, not as a burden, but a responsibility. Soldiers shifted uneasily, lowering their rifles as the canyon grew still again. The threat of battle faded, replaced by a silence that demanded reflection. Lily's father took a step toward her. "I wanted to restore our name. I wanted to claim what was ours before they took it." "No one took it from you. Your ancestors protected it together. You tried to claim it alone." The older man's posture weakened. He looked at his daughter, not with anger, but with a tired sadness. "I feared losing you, so I locked you away so no one could use you against me. But I see now I lost you because of that." She breathed softly. "I never wanted to be a weapon. I only wanted to live." For a moment, nothing moved. Then her father lowered his eyes and nodded. He lifted his hand to signal his men. Slowly, the soldiers backed away, their boots echoing against stone as they retreated out of the chamber. The canyon seemed to sigh with relief. Lily watched her father leave, unsure if she would ever see him again. But she no longer felt tied to his choices. She felt free. Darkhawk placed a hand on her back, guiding her out of the chamber with the bundle pressed gently to her chest. When they returned to the upper ridge, the warriors gathered around them, watching with reverence. The elder woman approached, her voice steady. "You have carried truth back to the land. The past can now rest." Lily bowed her head slightly. "I hope to learn the rest of the story from you. Not as someone who took it, but as someone who belongs to both sides." The woman smiled softly. "Then you will be welcome among us." Darkhawk stood beside her, shoulders relaxing for the first time since they left camp. The tension that once defined his stance eased, replaced by quiet pride. He walked with her toward a small fire circle overlooking the canyon. The night sky stretched wide above them, stars sharp like lanterns guiding distant travelers. Lily sat next to him, setting the bundle gently on the warm earth. He looked at her with steady eyes. "You have strength. Not the kind that forces the world to bend, but the kind that chooses peace, even when pain stands in the way." She looked down, humbled. "I could not have done any of this without you." He shook his head slightly. "I did not lead you. I walked with you. There is a difference." She felt warmth rise in her chest. The desert breeze carried the faint sound of drums from the camp below. Families gathered, children laughed, and smoke curled into the air like prayers rising into the sky. She realized she did not feel alone anymore. Darkhawk looked toward the horizon where dawn began to color the land in soft gold. "What will you do now?" Lily breathed deeply, letting the desert air fill her lungs. "I want to stay. Learn your ways. Help protect what belongs to this land. And maybe one day, visit him again, not as his prisoner, but as his daughter." Darkhawk nodded with approval. "You will write your own story now." They sat in silence as the first rays of sunlight reached across the canyon floor. The earth no longer trembled. The air felt lighter, as though the land had settled into peace. The ancient truth she carried would not be used for power or greed. It would be protected by the people it was meant to unite. As the sun rose higher, Lily leaned closer to Darkhawk, not out of fear this time, but trust. He placed a gentle hand over hers, grounding her in the present. The canyon glowed beneath them, alive and eternal, no longer a secret buried in stone, but a reminder that history could heal when carried by those who chose compassion over control. Together, they stood, ready to walk back to the camp where new beginnings waited. She held the bundle close, feeling its quiet heartbeat match her own. The land was no longer a prison or battlefield. It was home, and this time, she stepped into it freely.